If you are experiencing foundation issues, get a free estimate from Ox Foundations.
35 degrees on this Tuesday morning, the 9th day of March. And joining us this morning, Jerry Walker and Andy Davis, Army National Guard retired. And gentlemen, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good to have you with us today. And Jerry, I've known you most of my life, and I've always respected our military and so thankful that we have men like these two that have protected our concerns, whether it be in the United States or abroad. And I've been wanting to get Jerry on. He said, look, I want to bring my friend Andy Davis on. I said, hey, bring him on. And so here we are this morning. And Jerry, first of all, a lot of people watching this morning may know you, but they may not know Andy. Tell us a little bit about him as you know him to start with.
Okay. I met Andy probably 40 some odd years ago. I stayed in the Guard 40 years, and I was a sergeant then at the Ellick City Military Police Company down there. And Andy joined, he was at Auburn at the time. He joined our unit because he wanted to be a policeman, and he was a policeman one time at Auburn. Mm-hmm. And then he joined our unit, and after I got to know him a little bit, we got a call to go to Desert Storm. And Andy was a student at Auburn, and I don't think he had completed all of his training yet, but when we got activated, we got to the Armory, and we was all trying to get everything packed up and everything, and here comes Andy. I said, what are you doing here? He said, I'm going. I said, going where? And he said, I'm going with y'all. And I said, we got set orders. He said, I don't care. I'm going with y'all. And he did. He went with us. Didn't have a set of orders. Didn't get paid one penny while we was gone, or whatever. But that's the kind of soldier he was.
Now, Andy, you retired from the Army National Guard at a pretty high rank. Talk about that a little bit.
Blind squirrel finding a nut every now and then. I retired as a colonel. 31 years. Jerry's trying to throw in a couple years on me, but it was. I'll tell you, I met Jerry in September of 1988 is when I showed up to the 214th. And Jerry was our operations officer and then later became the first sergeant. And I was enlisted, went to Desert Storm, came home, went through the Alabama Military Academy, OCS at Fort McClellan. And the rest is kind of a pretty good history in the Alabama Guard serving. Jerry and I served in floods, some snowstorms, ice storms, and then a couple tours overseas together. And guys like Jerry and T.J. Enos and Larry Rayfield and Frank Vickery, those guys mentored the young soldiers. We got other guys, Chris Butler, he's my same age. He's still serving as a lieutenant colonel, and it's because guys like Jerry kind of took a...
Why did you choose to leave Auburn University and go with these guys?
Well, I think somebody told me I needed to go take care of him, is my opinion. Good Lord told me I needed to go take care of Jerry. But it was just the camaraderie of the guys down there and the mentorship and it was a good family, and
a great unit.
They were my buddies, and just your buddies are going, and you got to go, and you got to go serve. And
Jerry, talk about a little bit your service to the Alabama Army National Guard and how you got started.
Well, it goes way back. My mother's family has a military background. Her brother was a retired full bird colonel, and her brother-in-law was a retired chief something out of the Navy. And Uncle Gordon came home one time he was up in the Carolinas, came home to my mother's and daddy's place to visit us. And he had his Class A uniform on. And I was about 10 years old, and I said, I got to have me one of them. and it started me wanting to get me a uniform that looked good, and I just joined it. And I enjoyed it. If I wasn't too old, I'd still be in, I like to spit and polish of it. Plus, I like to help people. And we did, being an MP, everything that happened, not wartime, but everything that happened, snowstorms, ice storms, floods, whatever, they called MPs, and we helped people. Me and this guy was we owned the city of Elba, I guess, when it flooded. And of course,
one of the times it flooded.
It was 12 foot underwater the second time we went down there. And he and I took the what county is that? Coffee County?
Yeah,
Coffee County Sheriff across to the other side of Elba. We went down through there, and he was sitting on top of my Humvee seat because there's water that deep in my Humvee. And we did that just so we wouldn't have to go 28 or 30 miles around. And we got him to the other side, and he said, "I think I'll just call a car to come back." But we help people. And, that's what people don't realize, how much the Guard helps. And I've enjoyed it. And
Now, when did you retire?
I retired in 2004.
Okay.
Yeah, and I had 40 years.
Andy, what about you?
Retired December 1st, 2019.
How many years?
31 years.
Wow.
And a little change.
Yeah. Why the National Guard? Why so driven to serve your country?
Patton, when I was a little kid and I watched the movie Patton, the MPs were in Patton, and I wanted to be a police officer, and so all my life that's just kind of what I wanted to be. And when I got a little bit older, I was still in high school down in Florida. I tried to join the Florida Guard there. The recruiter said there was no MP units in Florida, which I now know was not really the truth. He was just trying to recruit for another unit. And so when I got to Alabama, I joined the Guard, and it just the sense of helping somebody. I knew it was something we could do to help the citizens. And then when I got a little bit more understanding between the Guard and the Army Reserve, I was like, oh yeah, I want to be in the Guard. And sure enough, I mean, it was pretty soon that the Guard was getting called out again. As soon as I signed up for another flood in Elba, just before Desert Storm, we were called down to Elba for another flood. Mm-hmm. And it's helping your neighbor, helping out those, and then when the balloon goes up, you run off to a larger conflict. Yeah. But it was just something that I just had a calling for, and I enjoyed. There's my only regret is I didn't get to join earlier when I was in high school.
Wow.
And that's my biggest regret, that I missed 2.5 years of I could have been in sooner. If I could ever find that recruiter, I'd find him. But no, it was just helping out fellow citizens.
Yeah, Jerry, in recent years, in the last year or so, the National Guard has been called into some very volatile situations as well.
Absolutely. They years ago, the thing that happened at, what was it, Kent State or whatever it was.
Yeah.
I think that put a bad taste in some of the politicians' mouth about, well, we weren't trained or whatever. But I would dare say, probably 20% of our company was police officers, county deputies, or whatever, and they were policemen. We're military police on weekends, and during the week they were policemen. So. And that's why we had such a good company, because they were doing the same thing they do every day. Mm-hmm. But then again, they got where people called us up and they said, well, them guys know what they're doing. They can handle it. The people that when we left Desert Storm, the brigade out of Germany, 2nd
ACR,
come up and said, Sergeant Walker said, we'll take your whole company back with us.
Wow.
I mean that. For the 2nd Armored Cavalry Regiment commander to tell us that, we must have did a pretty good job. But he said, we'll take every one of y'all.
Got to make you feel awfully proud.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Andy, talk about the Desert Storm time that you served in the Alabama Army National Guard, and what was that like?
At that time, I was a PFC, and I was a gunner. And we got, like Top was saying, we got attached to the 2nd Armored Cavalry Regiment out in Saudi Arabia, and then crossed the line into Iraq. And there's a little hesitation from the ACR. They did not have an MP, an organic MP unit to them. And then when they found out they were going to get an MP unit, they weren't too happy about that, because back in Germany, they had a distinction of getting in trouble a lot in the bars and stuff, and so they didn't like the MPs, and then let alone an Alabama National Guard MP unit. They're like, ah. But like Top said, it was very quickly they realized that we were an asset and that we were there working with them, and we were in the Battle of 73 Eastings, which was at the time, and it's on History Channel. It's the largest tank battle in history. So we were at some important engagements in that event over there in '90 and '91. We lost Randy Gerald, a soldier that was from Alex City. But we were lucky. You know, we drove through some minefields. We had some really close engagements with Iraqis at the time. And for some good old boys from Alabama, I think we fared pretty well.
We took one convoy through that minefield.
Yep.
How many did we have? How many vehicles? 125 probably.
Ridiculous amount.
Every one of them had to go on the same tracks because they was little clusters, bomb clusters here and there, and every vehicle we had to go through, had to use the same track to go through there. And then you're talking about 125. Some of them big trucks, some of them Jeeps, Humvees, or whatever. So, but we made it. Thank the good Lord, you know, and you can't explain it. Like Andy said, we was lucky, you know. We
talk about the fear factor. I mean, you had to be somewhat fearful of not knowing, you know, if you make a wrong move, you could be blown to smithereens.
We came up on the when we was with the 2nd Armored Cavalry Regiment, we came over a sand dune, and there was, 5 or 6 Iraqi fighting vehicles in front of us. And there we were. We had Humvees. Of course, we had the helicopters with us and a couple of tanks with us. And Captain Odom, he's the one that was here last week, you know, I told you about, called it in, and we were sitting there. And I remember I was sitting in my Humvee, and John Tapley, my retired state trooper buddy, was driving, and I had a bag of Hershey's Kisses, about like that. And they started shooting, and what people didn't know was, them old Russian T-72 tanks had a maximum effective range of about,
like 1,500 yards. They were out of range from them.
Yeah, out of range, and we just sat there and just picked them off, just bam, 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 and the helicopter go like that. And when it was over with, I looked down and I had ate that whole bag of Kisses. You were just sitting there, nervous and fear factor or whatever. But you know, but you remember things like that. But we were lucky. We lost one guy, and we went to his last Wednesday was the 30th year, right. And of course he didn't get killed in combat. It was an accident. Yeah. A soldier let his weapon discharge and killed him. But we went
and our company commander, Captain Odom, was a Vietnam veteran, and so he had seen the experiences, and then with the train up prior to us going, he really built the confidence of the unit. It also added, and I'm gonna throw the older guys under the train a little bit. We were a little bit more seasoned than a regular Army MP unit because our guys were more experienced. Like he just mentioned John Tapley. John Tapley was a state trooper. So he had experience, you know, maybe not direct combat, but that just the experience that an E7 or E6 in the National Guard that might be 20 or 30 years older than his counterpart on the active duty, but also was a police officer. So we were fortunate to have the NCOs that were a little bit more mature than the other units that helped, you know, rally in the E3s and E4s that were all ready to go do all great things. And the experience that we had in our company with the senior guys, really, I think that got us through a lot, and we didn't have knee-jerk reactions because we had solid NCOs.
How'd you keep your sanity? You know, you're a long way from home. I mean, these guys that you're facing, they're not your buddies.
No.
and you're not sleeping in your own bed, and you're not eating what normal Americans eat for supper.
Right.
How do you keep your sanity in all of this?
Keep moving?
Yeah, I guess. And you got to have a little faith, you know. And but we worked, 15, 16, 17 hours a day. So And if we ever stopped, you just tried to get a little bit of sleep. We slept in a Humvee sitting up most of the time. And we didn't put up a tent or nothing unless we was at a place for 3 days or more. If you weren't there, we just slept in a Humvee or slept on the ground or whatever. But you think about it, but then again, you're so busy you don't think about it.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense or not, but and I don't care. Everybody was scared. You can't, I was. Everybody was. You can't not be scared if you know they got 500,000 men out there just trying to kill you.
And it's a long way from Alabama, ain't it?
Yes, it is. So.
What about the climate there?
Well, and we went back. We were in Desert Storm, but the 214th and the MP battalion from Alabama, we went back and basically from 03 to 05, we had companies from Alabama National Guard, and the battalion, MP battalion, was back we were back in Baghdad at that time. So we had a different atmosphere in the first Gulf War compared to the second Operation Iraqi Freedom. The atmosphere in the first one was more of a it was kind of a it was almost movie-like. It was you just rode out in the desert and you did your job, and it was it was a very quick turnaround. I mean, we were gone and back within 5 to 6 months. Whereas when we were there in 03 and 04 and 05, you were over there for 12 months. Hard time. One of our MP units from South Alabama, they actually were one of the groups that got extended 15 months in Baghdad. Yeah. And that atmosphere was totally different. I mean, because they were going out every day on patrols and getting hit with IEDs and getting in small arms skirmishes.
And it was in July and August. I've seen it 150 degrees.
Yeah, it was hot.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And everybody says, well, it was humid. I said, it don't make no difference not if it's humid or not. 150 degrees is hot.
Yeah.
But of course we had to have all that body armor on. We went out and helmets and everything. And years ago they'd let you roll your sleeves up, but you had to have your sleeves down in case some got blow up, it wouldn't burn your arm as bad. So, it was just a different atmosphere.
What was the weight of the equipment and uniform stuff you guys had to wear?
40 pounds. It's about 40 pounds, and that's before you. That's just with your vest and your helmet and all that. If you're a young guy and you're a gunner, you're gonna have to throw all the ammo and the weapon systems added another 15 to 20 pounds.
Yeah. I remember years ago when I was in radio. I don't know how this happened, but the media, we were flown over to Camp Shelby, Mississippi, to see how you guys operated. And the biggest thing I got out of that trip was that Tabasco sauce. I don't know how that connects with all of that, but there's a lot of talk about Tabasco sauce for sure.
The first generation MREs didn't have the Tabasco sauce. Right. Then the second one, that's when everybody said the Army got soft, when they started adding the Tabasco sauce to the meals.
But what did you eat?
The first time we ate MREs. That's meals ready to eat. It had all the essentials you needed.
Right.
And it the early ones, the old sea rats, they had a little pack of 3 cigarettes.
Now he's going way back.
That's way back. That's back before his time. But you can take them and one of them was scalloped potatoes and ham.
Yeah.
Was one pretty good. Yeah, and you do that and you put the Tabasco.
There you go. Flavor it up a little bit.
Right.
Yeah, and you can mismatch and get some pretty good food. Now the second time over there, if you went out somewhere, that you eat MREs, but we had a dining facility set up. The Jordanians, I think, was the cooks, and we had 4 meals a day: breakfast, mid-noon, and late afternoon and midnight, because a lot of times we run 12-hour shifts. Yeah. So, it was pretty good food. Yeah. Kellogg branded root, didn't they set it up?
KBR. I think what the leadership tried to do is make sure that at least the guys they're getting shot up and blown up, at least at the mealtime, they got a decent meal. It was what I think the leadership was trying to go for, so that there's a little bit more decompression. So most of the chow halls not in the initial invasion in 2003, but once places got established, most of the guys, if they were at the larger bases in Iraq, they got pretty decent meals. You had a lot of third world country contracts that came in. They were the cooks, and it was a pretty decent meal. I mean, it was pretty decent. Now the guys that were out in the small fobs and stuff like that, they ate heat and serves, or they had the MREs, and it wasn't as nice. I mean, there's a lot of guys that are like, you lived at a large base. You're in Hollywood. You were on vacation on large bases.
Jerry Walker and Andy Davis, Army National Guard, Alabama Army National Guard, retired. And Jerry, you were telling the story early on this morning about when Andy came back from Desert Storm. He goes back to Auburn.
Right.
And what's the story behind that now?
Well, when he was at Auburn, General Schwarzkopf's daughter, Christy, was that one her name? She was a student at Auburn, and they were friends. And who would ever thought that when he left Auburn, he would, work for her daddy, because he was the one guy that was over everything. And when we come back from Desert Storm, he went and visited her, but they went to Tampa. That's where General Schwarzkopf retired. I think there's a place called Officer's Circle, and I think every house there's a general grade officer worked there. And Andy went down and visited with the man. And
so y'all didn't get to go?
No.
He signed a picture for us. He sent a picture back for the company.
Yeah, he did. Andy brought a picture. He said, to the 214th MP Company, toujours prêt, and that means always ready. And he said General Schwarzkopf, and he gave it to Andy to bring back, and we kept it in our army.
Wow. The Alabama Army National Guard is used in various situations, including disastrous times. You talked about the flood in Elba. What are some of the other disastrous areas that y'all worked in?
Really, it's the ice storms, Elba. In the 80s, there's a little issue in Selma. We went to help the state troopers and Selma police back in like 89 or 88.
88,
But Elba, I mean, the 214th and Elba they about every 4 years, it seemed like we went on a pretty regular schedule.
Yeah.
And then the ice storms.
I think, say in 93, the big ice storm,
right?
We owned the city of Birmingham because they didn't have anything to travel with. It got caught, and they didn't have enough sand trucks or whatever, and the Humvees about the only thing that would get around. And they were tough getting around on that ice. They do well in snow, but ice is pretty tough. But we had 12 or 15 Humvees up there.
Took the ambulance drivers around in the Humvees.
Doctors, nurses to the hospital, deliver blood, and whatever. And then did security too.
And then Hurricane Katrina, you had MP units that went down to Mississippi and New Orleans. So it's the Gulf Coast National Guard units, Florida, Mississippi, Georgia, Alabama. They're all pretty. They're pretty routine in the running of natural disasters, of hurricanes and storms and like that. They've done their citizens proud. I mean, they're all pretty good.
Before we go this morning, and certainly we're honored that you both came this morning and are thankful for your service to our country. Talk about your passion for the United States of America.
Jim Dale, I love my country, but I'm ashamed of the people in it right now. And I don't like to say that, but it's the truth. We got some people that absolutely some of us run this country that don't have a clue of what's going to happen, or are they trying to change everything that's been good for years and years, and it worries me. I mean, I can survive, and Andy can survive, but my kids and my grandkids and my great-grandkids, I don't know what's going to happen to them if somebody don't wake up and get it back on the right track. And you know, I don't know how we're going to do that. Do you?
No, it is. I wish everybody would just, you know, get along. It really is. I mean, there's country music songs. Get along. We all have our value. You know, the military is a great equalizer. You know, we're all the same. We're all brothers and sisters. And you know, I have faith that everybody will, you know, make it through. But you know, we've got to continue on this experiment in democracy that we have. And it's only going to get better if we learn how to compromise and be nice to each other, and learn that, hey, we can disagree, but you're not my enemy if I disagree with you. You know, some of my best friends I disagree with all the time, and we've just got to learn how to make it better and develop better. But the fighting and disagreeing and you know, not seeing somebody else's point of view and not appreciating and not giving, you know, value to another person. We've got to do better about that. I mean, we're the greatest nation in the world.
Absolutely.
We've been all around, and there's still people dying to get into this country. It's a great country. It's the best country, and I wish people would have that passion and instead of having passion of arguing with one another, have passion about trying to make it better. You know, we got hundreds of things out there that you could volunteer. You can be a big brother, big sister. You can go volunteer at the boys club, the girls club, the YMCA. You know, I work at the 4-H center in Columbiana. The 4-H. Be a volunteer. Do something good. Work and help your brother and sister out. Don't sit there and try to tear it down. I mean, there's some things we need to correct. Absolutely. There's some things we can do better, but we don't have to fight about it. We don't need to infight, you know, and when we infight, we look bad to the rest of the world, and we don't need to. There's people passionate about how good we are to them. I mean, I'm still in contact. I went to Egypt. I'm still in contact with some Egyptian guys that I send clothes over to because they don't have stuff. And their kids, and we send things to them. They appreciate the Americans that come over.
I was about to say, how does the other parts of the world look at our country?
Everywhere I've been, they love us.
They want, they want
well,
to
except
come.
for some of them trying to kill us. But besides those people, you know, I mean, we've been to Central America together. We've been to Panama, Honduras, Nicaragua. They still value the Americans. Now, sometimes, you know, the high-ranking politicians, whatever, but the individuals that we met, the individuals in Iraq, I'm telling you, the Iraqi people, they are good people.
I was going to ask about that.
They are fantastic. They were good when we were there in Desert Storm. The ones we ran across a cement factory one time, and people are people. And we were out on a patrol, and we came up on these guys. There's a little creek out in the middle of the desert. Don't ask me how there's a little creek in the middle of the desert. But there's three or four guys swimming, and they scared us. We scared them, and you know, couldn't speak any. They were just simply swimming. And, you know, we were like, hey, I think we threw them some MREs. They were grateful. There's just three guys, you know, together hanging out. They're just normal folks. And they're good people. They're you know, and so they look at Americans as good people overall. And we got to keep that going.
Hey, thank you both for coming this morning. We could talk for hours.
Days.
But, Jerry, let's leave it with you this morning. You know, there's a lot of stuff going on in America today. And we had, I don't know if it was a National Guard or who it was, that group of men and women that were at the Capitol after the incidents there. And I heard stories of how they were mistreated. Speak a little bit before we go this morning about honoring America and honoring our men and women who serve.
You know, that's what I was talking about a few minutes ago. People don't realize what we do or how we help people. And when they send up, and I don't know if this is so or not, I saw pictures of soldiers sleeping on in a parking lot on the hard concrete.
Soldiers gonna sleep where soldiers sleep.
And I mean, that's okay if you're in a situation where you had to. That's what we train to do. But as many places as they are up there, it looked like to me they could have taken better care of our soldiers, you know. And I don't know how they were. I don't know how they were fed, or if it was MREs or whatever. But I don't think they treated us like they should have. I really don't. And you know, like I said a while ago, people have gotten away from the old American traditions that we were founded on.
Well, God bless America, and God bless you gentlemen and your families, and thank you both for coming this morning.
Thank you, Jimmy Dale.
Jerry Walker and Andy Davis, Alabama Army National Guard, retired, our guests this morning.